First contact and invasion. The stars disappeared over Lakeside one by one, not in a slow fade as dawn approached, but in deliberate, geometric patterns. Martin Reeves, the town's aging astronomer, was the first to notice. His weathered hands trembled as he adjusted his telescope, convinced his eyes were playing tricks on him. They weren't. It's like someone's taking bites out of the night sky, he muttered into his recorder. His call to the nearest observatory went unanswered until morning. By then, the stars had returned, but something else was missing. The usual skepticism that greeted astronomical anomalies. 6,000 miles away, Commander Eliza Chen stood in the control room of the Pacific Defense Command, watching as analysts rushed between workstations. 3 weeks had passed since Reeves's observation, and what began as isolated reports had evolved into a global phenomenon. "Show me the latest," Chen ordered, her voice calm despite the tension evident in her posture. The main display flickered to life, revealing a cluster of objects decelerating as they approached Earth's orbit. 17 distinct signatures, Commander, reported Lieutenant Santos. Largest is approximately 3 kilometers in length. They're slowing down. Any response to our transmissions? Nothing yet, ma'am. Chen's dark eyes narrowed. 20 years in military intelligence had taught her that silence rarely preceded good news. Alert all commands. Maintain defensive posture, but no provocative actions, and get me Dr. Webb. Dr. Marcus Webb was not what most people expected from the head of SETI's First Contact Protocol Division. With his rumpled clothing and perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, he looked more like an overworked high school teacher than humanity's designated ambassador to the stars. "They've been receiving our signals for centuries," Webb explained as he walked alongside Chen toward the United Nations emergency session. "If they wanted to communicate, they would have by now." "So why come at all?" Chen asked, adjusting her uniform. Webb's expression darkened. "In nature, silence is rarely benevolent, Commander. Predators don't announce themselves." The emergency UN session convened under unprecedented security. Representatives from 193 nations gathered as Dr. Webb presented what little they knew about the approaching vessels. "We're broadcasting on all frequencies using mathematical sequences and basic linguistic patterns," Webb explained to the assembly. "Their technology suggests a civilization at least several centuries more advanced than our own. Their vessels show no conventional propulsion systems, yet they've traversed interstellar space in what appears to be months rather than millennia." The Secretary General leaned forward. "And their intentions, Doctor?" Webb hesitated. "Unknown, but they've positioned themselves in a formation that suggests thorough surveillance of our planet. They're watching us, learning." The first direct contact came not through communication, but action. 27 days after their arrival in Earth's orbit, smaller craft descended from the larger vessels. They bypassed major population centers, instead landing in remote locations: the Atacama Desert, Siberian plains, Australian outback, and various oceanic regions. Commander Chen led the first observation team to the Atacama site. What they found defied conventional understanding. "It's some kind of extraction facility," she reported back to headquarters. Through high-powered binoculars, she watched as slender figures in gleaming suits methodically installed equipment around a central structure. "They're drilling or mining, but with technology unlike anything I've seen." For 3 days, humanity watched and waited as similar operations established themselves across the globe. Attempts at communication continued to go unanswered. Then, without warning, the nature of the visitation changed. The attack began at dawn on the 4th day, not with energy weapons or explosions, but with precision strikes against Earth's defensive infrastructure. Communication satellites failed first, followed by power grids in regions surrounding the alien extraction sites. Military installations, reported guidance systems failing, and weaponry becoming inoperable within proximity to alien craft. "They're neutralizing our capacity to interfere," Webb realized as reports flooded in. "This isn't an invasion. It's a resource operation. We're not being conquered, we're being harvested." Within a week, conventional military responses proved futile. Aircraft approaching alien structures lost power. Ground vehicles stalled. Even infantry reported weapon systems failing within a certain radius of alien activity. In her makeshift command center, now relocated to a hardened bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Commander Chen confronted the grim reality of their situation. They're systematically expanding their extraction zones, she told the assembled military and scientific leadership. At current rates, they'll control 20% of Earth's surface within a month. What are they taking? Demanded General Harris of the United States Armed Forces. Dr. Webb stepped forward, dark circles under his eyes betraying nights without sleep. We've analyzed samples from sites they've abandoned. They're extracting specific trace elements, particularly a rare form of tellurium that exists primarily in Earth's crust. Why tellurium? Chen asked. We can't be certain, Webb admitted. But based on spectrographic analysis of their vessels, we believe it's central to their propulsion system, possibly even their life support. The revelation sparked the first real hope since the invasion began. If we know what they want, Chen said slowly, we can predict where they'll go next. More importantly, Webb added, we might be able to understand their vulnerabilities. Operation Shadowlight launched 2 weeks later. Small teams of specialists, equipped with shielded observation technology developed by studying alien electromagnetic emissions, infiltrated the perimeters of extraction sites worldwide. Their mission: gather intelligence on alien biology, technology, and operational patterns. Commander Chen led the most critical mission herself, a high-risk insertion into the largest extraction facility in the Siberian tundra. What they discovered? They're changed everything. They're not just mining tellurium, she reported back through quantum-encrypted channels that scientists had developed to bypass alien surveillance. They're processing it on site, combining it with biological material. Webb's team analyzed the intelligence, working around the clock to decrypt the alien production process. On the 23rd day of the invasion, he called an emergency meeting. They're dying, he announced to the assembled leaders. The tellurium on Earth contains trace elements that, when processed through their technology, creates a compound that sustains their biological functions. Based on the quantity they're extracting and their population estimates from ship capacity, we believe their home system is depleted. General Harris snorted. So they're desperate. How does that help us? Desperate entities make mistakes, Chen replied. And they have. Their focus on extraction has made them predictable. They follow the tellurium deposits with absolute efficiency. Webb nodded. More importantly, we've identified something unusual in their processing. The extracted tellurium undergoes a specific reaction when exposed to their atmosphere. It's this processed form they need, not the raw element. Chen leaned forward. And can we interfere with this process? Better, Webb said, a glimmer of hope in his tired eyes. We can duplicate it, but with a critical modification. As cities around the world went dark and global infrastructure strained under the alien presence, a plan took shape in the underground bunker. Humanity, backed into a corner, would strike back not with weapons, but with something far more powerful. Deception. They see us as an obstacle, not a threat, Chen told the coalition of scientists, military personnel, and government representatives. That's their fundamental mistake. They came here assuming superior technology equals absolute advantage. Webb stepped forward, displaying the molecular structure they'd developed. This synthetic compound is virtually identical to the processed tellurium they're harvesting, with one critical difference. Its atomic bonds will destabilize under the specific radiation frequency their ships emit. In simple terms, Chen translated, they take this home, try to use it, and it becomes useless. But how do we get them to take our version instead of what they're mining? Asked the representative from India. Chen's expression hardened. We give them what they want, access to the richest tellurium deposits on Earth. Only by then, we'll have already been there. As the plan took shape, humanity faced its darkest hour. Major cities worldwide operated on minimal power. Food distribution networks strained under the pressure of disrupted infrastructure. In some regions, civil unrest threatened to undermine the global coalition. Yet beneath the surface, something remarkable was happening. Nations that had been adversaries for generations pooled resources and intelligence. Scientists shared breakthroughs without concern for patents or credit. A singular purpose united humanity in ways that peace never had. In her rare moments of rest, Commander Chen found herself reflecting on the irony. It had taken an existential threat from beyond Earth to remind humans of their common bond. We always imagined first contact would either end in destruction or enlightenment, Webb commented during one late-night strategy session. No one considered it might be more like a burglary, Chen smiled grimly. Then I suppose it's time we showed them the consequences of breaking and entering. As Operation Shadowlight moved into its final preparation phase, humanity prepared for its most audacious gambit. They weren't fighting for victory in the traditional sense, they were playing a longer game, one that required patience, precision, and perfect timing. The aliens had come to Earth expecting resources. They would leave with something else entirely, a lesson in underestimating humanity. Adaptation and counterstrike sunrise over the Ural Mountains painted the snow-covered landscape in hues of amber and gold. Commander Eliza Chen observed the alien extraction facility through specialized binoculars, counting the mechanical harvesters as they methodically stripped the Earth of its resources. 2 months had passed since the invasion began, and in that time humanity had learned to become invisible. The primary processing plant has increased output by 30%, reported Lieutenant Kim, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air. They're accelerating. Chen nodded, her expression revealing nothing. They sense something. Get word to the other teams, we move tonight. Operation Shadowlight had evolved from simple intelligence gathering into humanity's most complex collaborative effort. While alien extractors expanded their territory, underground laboratories worldwide had been synthesizing the modified tellurium compound. The challenge wasn't production, it was delivery. The substitution has to be perfect, Dr. Webb had explained during the final briefing. We're not just replacing their raw materials, we're infiltrating their entire supply chain. What made the operation possible was the aliens' methodical nature. Their extraction protocols followed identical patterns regardless of location, a weakness born of efficiency. As darkness fell over the Siberian facility, Chen's team moved into position. Similar operations were commencing at extraction sites across the globe, synchronized to the minute. Wearing suits designed to mimic the electromagnetic signature of alien technology, they approached the perimeter defenses. Remember, Chen whispered into her comm unit, we're not fighting them, we're becoming them. The infiltration proceeded with precision. Teams targeted the central processing stations, where raw tellurium underwent the initial refinement process. The aliens had established automated systems that required minimal oversight, another vulnerability stemming from their technological superiority. Dr. Marcus Webb coordinated from the Mobile Command Center, analyzing real-time data from infiltration teams worldwide. 73% of primary targets accessed, he reported 6 hours into the operation. Substitution protocols proceeding on schedule. The beauty of the plan lay in its subtlety. Rather than destroying alien technology or directly confronting, the invaders' Operation Shadowlight targeted the very foundation of their mission. The synthetic compound would pass all standard quality controls, only revealing its flawed nature when subjected to the specific conditions aboard the alien vessels. Not everything went according to plan. At the Australian extraction site, a team was discovered by an unexpected patrol. In Brazil, a system malfunction triggered containment protocols that trapped technicians inside a processing facility. Yet, for each setback, alternatives emerged. Local resistance fighters created diversions in Australia. Engineers in neighboring extraction zones adjusted their targets to compensate for Brazil. 3 days into the operation, the first signs of success appeared. Alien vessels began recalling smaller craft from various extraction sites, apparently satisfied with their harvest. Larger extraction facilities continued operating, but with noticeably reduced personnel. They're preparing to leave, Webb confirmed, analyzing orbital telemetry from remaining satellite networks. The flagship has altered its orientation consistent with pre-launch configurations. In the underground command center, representatives from global governments and military forces gathered to monitor the exodus. The atmosphere was tense but hopeful. What, if they discover the substitution before departure? Asked the Chinese military attaché. Chen's answer was direct. Then we implement contingency Prometheus. She didn't elaborate. All present understood that Prometheus represented humanity's last resort. Simultaneous detonation of nuclear devices at all extraction sites. A desperation move that would devastate regions of the planet, but potentially cripple the alien fleet. They won't discover it, Webb interjected with quiet confidence. The compound is fundamentally identical to what they seek. Only under specific activation conditions will the molecular structure destabilize. 7 weeks after Operation Shadowlight began, the alien vessels initiated departure sequences. One by one, massive ships lifted from Earth's atmosphere, their unconventional propulsion systems distorting the air around them. Global monitoring stations tracked their trajectory toward the outer solar system. Humanity held its collective breath. If the plan succeeded, the aliens would be well beyond Mars before attempting to process their harvested materials. If it failed, now what? General Harris asked during the tense monitoring session. Now, Chen replied, we prepare for either outcome. The wait lasted 17 days. Then, without warning, 3 alien vessels altered course, breaking formation with the departing fleet and returning toward Earth orbit. Emergency protocols activated worldwide as defense systems, rebuilt during the alien withdrawal, prepared for renewed conflict. They've discovered the substitution, Webb confirmed, analyzing the patterns of the returning ships, but only partially. The lead vessels have likely begun preliminary processing and encountered the instability. Chen stared at the tactical display, mind racing through scenarios. 3 ships out of 17. They're sending a contingent back while the main fleet continues. They don't know if the problem is their processing method or our materials. What's our plan? Harris demanded. Chen's expression hardened. We talked to them. The decision was controversial but strategic. During the occupation, linguistic specialists had made significant progress decoding alien communication patterns. Though far from fluent, they had developed a rudimentary translation system based on mathematical principles and observed alien behaviors. As the 3 vessels established orbit, Earth broadcast a single message on frequencies the aliens had previously used for their own communications. We understand your need. We offer genuine material through cooperation. Conflict unnecessary. The response came 12 hours later, not in language but action. A single shuttle descended, landing at a designated neutral site in international waters. The meeting location was an oil platform repurposed as a diplomatic facility, selected for its isolation and defensibility. Commander Chen led the human delegation, accompanied by Dr. Webb and representatives from 5 continental regions. They waited on the helipad as the alien craft settled onto the designated landing zone. The being that emerged stood nearly 7 feet tall, its body encased in an articulated suit that seemed more symbiotic organism than manufactured technology. Its movements were fluid yet precise, giving the impression of carefully controlled power. Webb activated the translation device, its algorithms processing in real time as the alien produced a series of harmonic tones and electromagnetic pulses. You altered the element, came the approximate translation. You interfered with necessary harvest. You attacked our world without communication. Chen responded, her words converted into corresponding signals. You took without asking. We would have shared if approached peacefully. The alien's reaction was difficult to interpret, its suited form revealing no obvious emotional indicators. After a pause, it produced another sequence. Necessity required. Efficiency. Communication delays harvest. Webb stepped forward. We understand necessity. We face it ourselves. But sustainable solutions require mutual agreement. What followed was the most extraordinary negotiation in human history. Over 26 hours, with breaks for consultation with respective authorities, the foundations of understanding emerged. The aliens, who identified themselves with a term approximately translated as the continuance, revealed the desperation driving their actions. Their home system's resources had depleted generations ago. They survived through systematic harvesting of compatible worlds, taking what they needed and moving on. Earth was simply another resource point on a millennia-long journey of survival. Your response was unexpected, the alien representative communicated. Other species resist directly or submit completely. None has adapted our own methods against us. Adaptation is what humans do best, Chen replied. We prefer cooperation, but we will protect our world. The agreement that emerged was pragmatic rather than friendly. Earth would provide processed tellurium in quantities sufficient for the continuance's needs, but through regulated exchange rather than forced extraction. In return, the aliens would share specified technologies, particularly in fields of environmental, restoration, and energy production. How do we know they'll honor the agreement? Harris questioned during a private consultation. Once they have what they need, what prevents them from taking everything? The modified compound, Webb explained. We've demonstrated our capability to render their harvest useless. They understand the implication. Cooperation yields reliable resources. Aggression yields contaminated materials. 3 months after the negotiations, the last alien extraction facility was dismantled. In its place, a joint processing center was established operating under protocols that protected both human interests and alien requirements. Similar facilities would eventually operate on 6 continents, carefully monitored by international oversight committees. The transition wasn't seamless. Regional conflicts erupted over alien technology distribution. Religious and cultural frameworks struggled to incorporate the reality of extraterrestrial life. Yet alongside these challenges came unprecedented opportunities. Technologies exchanged as part of the agreement accelerated human development by decades, particularly in environmental, restoration, and medical applications. 1 year after first contact, Commander Chen stood on the observation deck of the International Space Station, watching as an alien vessel docked with the newly constructed exchange module. Regular material transfers had become routine, though never taken for granted. Did you ever imagine it would end like this? Webb asked, floating beside her in the zero-gravity environment. Chen considered the question, watching the methodical precision of the docking procedure. It hasn't ended, Marcus. It's only beginning. Below them, Earth continued its rotation, its continents showing the scars of conflict alongside signs of recovery. New cities rose where extraction facilities had once stood. Global cooperation, born of necessity, had evolved into something more sustainable. They came seeking resources, Chen continued. They found something they needed more. A partner, Webb nodded. They've visited hundreds of worlds across thousands of years. Yet according to their archives, we're the first species to offer a sustainable alternative to conquest. That says something about them, Chen noted, but also about us. The exchange completed. The alien vessel detached from the station, its unconventional drive system activating as it maneuvered away from Earth orbit. According to established protocols, it would rendezvous with the Continuance's main fleet at the edge of the solar system, delivering materials that would sustain their journey for another decade. In the command center of the station, representatives from Earth's United Space Agencies monitored the departure alongside alien coordination officers, who now served as permanent liaisons. Conversation flowed in multiple languages, both human and alien, facilitated by increasingly sophisticated translation systems. They're saying the fleet has identified another potential harvest world, reported the communications officer. Approximately 17 light-years from here. Have they initiated contact protocols? Chen asked. Yes, Commander, using the Earth model. Chen exchanged glances with Webb. Neither spoke the obvious truth, that humanity's response to invasion had not only saved Earth but potentially changed the fate of distant worlds they would never see. In her quarterly report to the United Nations Security Council, Chen would later write, First contact proved that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our military capability, it's our adaptability. When faced with superior force, we didn't simply fight or surrender. We changed the nature of the conflict itself. The report would conclude with an observation that would eventually be inscribed on the memorial established at the site of the first alien landing. We entered the galactic community not through exploration, but through defending our home. And in doing so, we may have taught more advanced civilizations the most important lesson of all, that true advancement comes not from taking what you need, but from finding ways for all to thrive. As Earth continued its healing and growth, the stars no longer seemed quite so distant, and among them traveled the knowledge that on one small blue planet, an emerging species had refused to be simply another resource. They had instead become something far more valuable, an example.